This study is going to be called the End Time Floods. The End Times Flood. Okay? The flood of the end times. Okay? Praise God. So, okay, let's open our Bibles and let's pick it up in Revelation chapter 12. And we'll pick it up verse 7 and let's pray. Father, we give you glory and honor for everything that you do. Open our eyes, open our ears, open our hearts to receive your word at this hour. We thank you for the word we're about to receive. In the name of Yeshua, your Son, Jesus Christ, we thank you, Father. Amen. Revelation chapter 12, verse 7. And there was war in heaven. And of course, remember, this is future, right? Remember Revelation chapter 1. John, I think it's verse 10. John was taken to the day of the Lord. And he was writing down as he saw it in the past tense, but it's really future because he was taken to the future. There was war in heaven, so this war is yet future. Michael is the restrainer, according to the book of Daniel, chapter 10. He's the one that restrains Satan. And his angels fought against the dragon. You know, the dragon, that's another name of Satan. And the dragon fought and his angels. Verse 8. Prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. Meaning, look at that. It says place found any more, meaning he has place. But there will come a day when he will not have any place anymore. Yes, remember remember Job 1:6 and 7, where he went up to present himself to the Lord, the sons of God, meaning the angels, and among them was Satan. And God asks, the Father asks him, where has he been? And he says, from roaming to and fro from the earth. So yes, he has limited spot, limited access. Because the word place there is the Greek word topos, which means limited in occupancy. And so he does have a spot, but it's limited. And verse 9, but that spot will be taken away one day. And the great dragon was cast out. And look, notice the name of Satan, the great dragon. That old serpent, of course, the serpent that was in Eve, that was in the Garden of Eden, seduced Eve. The word serpent, of course, the ancient Hebrew, means the shining one. And remember, Satan existed even before serpents roamed the earth. Called the devil and Satan. So we don't see here four people or four entities. We see four names given to one entity, one and the same, Satan, which deceives the whole world. And he has not yet, as we read Revelation 21:20, Revelation 20, Revelation 21, Revelation 13:8, he has not yet deceived the whole world, but one day he will. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. So he's not coming alone, he's coming with his angels, right? And verse 10, and they're coming imitating the coming of Christ, the most beautiful angel God ever created, right? And his angels are coming with him, as is written in Revelation 6:8. Death was riding the pale horse, and hell followed him. Verse 10. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now has come salvation and strength in the kingdom of our God, the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. So there we see what Satan does right now. He goes to the throne, meaning in heaven, because he hasn't been cast down. And he accuses us before God day and night. So he's the accuser. Verse 11. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb, by the word of the testimony. So how do we overcome him? By the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, of our testimony. And they loved not their lives unto death. We have to love God more than anything. Verse 12. Therefore rejoice, you heavens, and you that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and to the sea. For the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knows he hath but a short time. You see, there's Satan's wrath, and there's the wrath of God. First, we have Satan's wrath, which is the tribulation, and then we have God's wrath. which is the day of the Lord when he comes, taking vengeance on all them that know not God, and have pleasure in unrighteousness. And so notice this, because he knoweth he hath but a short time, and not 1,000 years, not 1,000,000 years, a short time, of course, Revelation chapter 9, verse 4 and 10, and 5 months. Verse 13. And when the dragon saw that he was cast into the earth, where was he cast to? To the earth. He persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child, in other words, Israel. But when Christ came and died on the cross, he made salvation available to whosoever will. So now Israel become the church. The church is spiritual Israel. Because remember, the church was grafted in Israel. We're part of Israel. Not two separate bodies. One body. As it is written there in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 13. By one Spirit into one body. Not two. So here, the woman persecuted the church. The woman that's persecuted here, of course, it is the church. Because woman in prophecy, it symbolizes a church, a religion, or a belief. And in this case, we see it symbolizes the church. Okay? Because when Jesus died on the cross, he said there, like I said, it's written there in Hosea, those that were not my people are now shall be called the children of God. And of course, all those that are of faith are the children of Abraham. Galatians chapter 3, verse 7. And verse 27, there's neither Jew nor Greek, neither Gentile, nor bond, nor free, nor bond. We all are children of God. So we're Israel now. So over here, this is very important, especially to debunk the rapture doctrine. Because the rapture, one of the bases, one of the foundations of the rapture is that there's scriptures that are addressed to the church, and there's scriptures addressed to the Israel, to the nation Israel, to the Jews. And the Jews is just one tribe of Judah. There's 12 tribes. So even in that, they fall short. But they fail to tell you that when Jesus Christ died on the cross, he came to his own received him not. But whoever received him, he gave him power to what? To become child of God. And if you read Romans 9, you can see that we were engrafted now to Israel. We're Israel now, the Jew, not a Jew outwardly in the flesh, but one inwardly in the flesh. And the circumcision is of the heart, not of the letter, as it is written there in Romans chapter 2, verse 28 and 29. That is very important for you to acknowledge, because that right there destroys the foundation of the rapture doctrine that says that only the Jews, only Israel, are going to stay here during tribulation. The church is going to fly away. And the church is spiritual Israel. Okay? Alright, verse 14. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle. The Bible, when it talks about the eagle, it either talks about God being the great eagle, and then like here in this verse, and it also compares Satan as an eagle, and his angels as the eagles. Like Jesus said there in the book of Matthew 24, wherever the carcass is, there will the eagles be gathered. Well, here, eagles symbolizes God, the Father. It says, then the woman were given 2 wings of an eagle. Where did she fly to? Did she fly to heaven? Oh, this is the rapture, brother. There's where the church is going to be given eagle wings. She's going to fly to heaven. No. What did it say here? And remember, wings are symbolic of protection and security. So the great eagle, being God, will give us protection and security during this time of tribulation. According to the book of Psalms 91, wings are symbolic of security, safety, and protection. The women were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly where? To heaven? In the rapture? No. Into the wilderness. And the wilderness, of course, symbolizes temptation, trials, Probation symbolizes the tribulation. So right here it's telling you that the church is going through the tribulation. And it says, into her place where she is nourished. And who's going to be nourishing the church? Who's going to be nourishing this woman? Notice how she is nourished. Thank you, Tres. Not starving, not in need, but nourished. In other words, the time of tribulation, God is going to take care of us. As he said there in Luke 21:18, not one hair on our head shall perish. Where she is what? Nourished. For how long? For a time, that's 1 year. And times, that's 2. 1 plus 2 is what? 3.5. So that's 3.5 what? Years from the face of the serpent. So the original time of the half of the tribulation, 7 divided by half, that Satan arrives at the middle of the tribulation, so that it leaves 3.5 years. Those 3.5 years were cut short. The last half of the tribulation, the 42 months, the last half when Satan is here, actually here as the Antichrist, those days will be cut short to 5 months. As it is written there in the book of Matthew chapter 24, where Jesus said, for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. And remember, even Satan knows, because he cometh knowing that he has what? A short time. So it says, from the face of the serpent. So God is going to protect us from the face of the serpent. That's why he said there, praying to the Father, in the book of John, in chapter 17, and I think it's 12, but John 17:12. I think I'm saying it's 12. John 17:12, where he said, I pray not that you take them out of the world, like in the rapture. You know? It says, no, 15, pardon. John 17:15 says, I pray not that thou shouldest take them out of the world, but that thou shouldest keep them from the evil one. Meaning from Satan, from the face of the serpent. Okay? When he comes with all power, lying wonders, and lying signs. Verse 15. Here's where we read about the end time flood. And the serpent cast out of his mouth. So where is this flood coming from? Remember the rainbow. The rainbow has 2 messages. It's a promise given from God that he will no longer flood the earth with waters, literal waters. But it is also, hermanos, make us remember or recall that the end time flood is not literal water, but actually lies that will come out of Satan's mouth. It says, and the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood, and after the woman, that she might cause her to be carried away of the flood. In other words, taken away by the flood. You don't want to be the one being taken away by the flood. You want to be the one remaining, standing. Okay, verse 16. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood, which the dragon cast out of his mouth. The whole world will wander after the beast. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnants of her seed. The remnant of what? The remnant of Israel. The remnant, God's elect. In other words, the church, God's elect, that are still here during the time of the tribulation, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Okay, let's go to the book of Matthew and chapter 24. Matthew 24. Mateo 24. Matthew 24. Yeah. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and, I'm going to wait for Matthew 24. I'm going to go ahead and follow the order that I have it here. For some reason, I don't know why, but I'm going to go ahead and follow this order the way I have it here. Let's go to the book of Isaiah 59. Isaiah 59. Isaiah 59, and let's read verse 19. Isaiah 59, verse 19. Okay, Isaiah 59, verse 19. So shall they fear the name of the Lord from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. Rising of the sun is what? The east. Okay? The east. Remember Revelation 16? And where it mentions, Revelation 16 says, and the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates. The water was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east, in other words, the rising of the sun, the rising of the light, dawn, in other words, east, might be prepared. Okay? Right now we're seeing foreshadows. Even as President Trump, prepares the way for the kings of the east, like in a figuratively way speaking, by visiting North Korea for the first time. But don't make that mistake. The Antichrist is not a man on this earth. What we're seeing is foreshadows, and we're seeing foreshadows, as you would, ¿verdad? Dice examples, in other words. So shall they fear the name of the Lord from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. And I might remind you also that the name of Satan, ¿verdad?, is the son of the morning. Morning is the rising of the sun. Morning is the east. Telling you that Satan will also come from the east. Remember, all the graves are facing east because that's where Jesus will come, from the east. But not only Jesus will come from the east, even Satan will come from the east. When the enemy, look, says right here, from the rising of the sun, when the enemy, who's the enemy? Satan, of course, shall come in like a flood. So who's coming like a flood? Satan, the enemy. The Spirit of the Lord shall lift up a standard against him. Verse 20. And the Redeemer shall come to Zion. So who's coming first? The enemy. He's coming like a flood. Verse 19. When the enemy shall come like a flood. So who's coming first? The enemy. How's he coming? Like a flood. But the Spirit of the Lord shall lift up a standard against him. And of course, that's where we and the Holy Spirit will take over us. And we will prophesy. And speaking in that, what we call the cloven tongues, the Pentecostal tongues. And even shall convert, or the naysayers shall, and this will anger Satan. He will destroy the two witnesses in Jerusalem. And verse 20 says, and the Redeemer shall come to Zion. Who's the Redeemer? Jesus. Notice that here it tells you who comes first and who comes after him. And unto them that turn from transgression in Jacob, says the Lord. Okay? And of course, we can read Job 19. I'll talk more about the Redeemer. But let's talk more about the end time flood. Let's go to the book of Isaiah chapter 8. Isaías 8. Verse 4. It says, for before the child shall have knowledge to cry, my father and my mother, the riches of Damascus and the spoil of Samaria shall be taken away before the king of Assyria. See, the king of Assyria, he took upon him the northern tribes, right? And but the king of Assyria, as if you read Ezekiel 31, the Syrian is one of Satan's names. And everybody agrees, no matter what religion or doctrine or whatever it is, everybody agrees that Ezekiel 31, when it talks about the Assyrian, it's talking about Satan. So when we talk about the Assyrian of past, it's only a foreshadow. Okay? And it says, for before the child, verse 5, he said, the Lord spake also unto me again, saying, verse 6, for as much as this people refuse the waters of Shiloah, God gives us waters that are sent. The word Shiloah means sent from God. And of course, he that is sent of God speaketh the words of God. John 3:34, right? They don't want his waters, so God is going to give them Satan's waters. They don't want his waters of truth. God is going to give them the flood of lies. It says, for as much as these people refuse the water of Shiloah, that goes softly, in other words, that comfort, and rejoice in risen, of course, the king of Syria, and Remaliah's son. Verse 7, here's the consequence. Now, therefore, behold, the Lord bringeth upon them the waters of the river. In other words, the flood of the end times, strong and many, even the king of Assyria. Here we're talking about the real king of Assyria, the Syrian, another name of Satan, and all his glory. He shall come up over all his channels and go over all his banks. Verse 8, he shall pass through Judah. He shall overflow and go over. See, if you know history, the Assyrian did not take Judah. The king of Assyria took over the 10 tribes, not Judah. Judah is just one tribe. The one that took Judah is Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar was the king of Babylon, not Assyria. So here, we're talking about Satan. Okay? And he shall pass through Judah. He shall overflow. There's that flood. And go over. He shall reach even to the neck and the stretching out of his wings. And stretching out of his wings, right? Praise God. And of course, these are wings of abomination, which we will read in Daniel chapter 9. Shall fill the breadth of the land. O Emmanuel, O God, be with us. O God, with us. See, during this time that Satan almost takes over as a flood, God reminds us of Emmanuel. What does Emmanuel mean? God what? With us. Not taken away from us, as many preach that during the tribulation, the Holy Spirit will be taken away. Like if he's something that's bothering. No. God is telling us, Emmanuel, reminding us that God will be with us. Verse 9. Associate yourselves, O you people. You shall be broken in pieces. Give ear, all ye that are far off country. Gird yourselves. Prepare yourself. And you shall be broken in pieces. Gird yourself, and you shall be broken in pieces. Verse 10. Take counsel together. Make a conspiracy. See if you can make war against the Lamb. And it shall come to naught. See, all weapons formed against us shall not prosper. Even Satan, like it's written there in the book of Psalms 83, all these nations shall rise and conspire against God. And Psalm chapter 2, and they will come to naught. Take counsel together, and it shall come to naught. Speak the word, and it shall not stand. If you speak the word, this conspiracy that they have against Jesus is not going to stand. This conspiracy that the Lord is talking about conspiracies. And they have conspired against Jesus. And we can see it come to terms, to come to full. Not to full, but mature more. And this conspiracy that is against the Lord. Take counsel together, ¿verdad? Dice, and it shall come to naught. Speak the word, and it shall not stand. For God is with us. There, not transliterated, but translated. Emmanuel, not transliterated, but translated. What does Emmanuel mean? God with us. And we know that Emmanuel is one of the names of Jesus. Verse 10. Take counsel together. Verse 11. For the Lord spake thus to me with a strong hand, and instructed me that I should not walk in the way of this people, saying, say you not a conspiracy, a confederacy? Say you not a conspiracy. Don't be a conspiracy theorist. To all them whose people shall say a conspiracy, neither fear you their fear, nor be afraid. Their terrorism. And don't fear their terrorism. And of course, terrorism is part of their conspiracy. Because out of order or out of chaos comes order is their motto. So they produce terror, and also that they can bring order. They bring chaos. They produce chaos so that they can bring their order. Remember, each world war brought us closer to a one world government. Each one. Dice aquí, say you not, verse 13. Sanctify the Lord of hosts himself, and let him be your fear. Let him be your fear. Let him be your dread. Fear not man, but fear him that can cast you into the lake of fire. Right? Remember Matthew 2:28. Fear not him that can kill your body. Verse 14. And ye shall be a sanctuary, but for a stone of stumbling and a rock of offense to both the house of Israel, for a gin and a snare to the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And of course, Jesus is that rock if you believe upon him. But if you don't believe upon him, that rock has become your rock of offense, because that is your stumbling stone. Do you want Jesus to be your rock, or do you want him to be your stumbling stone? If you want him to be your rock, believe in him. But if you don't want to believe in him, that rock will fall on you and will smash you to powder. Verse 15. And many among them shall stumble and fall, be broken, be snared, and what? Shall be taken. Taken by what? By the flood of lies. You don't want to be the one taken. Okay? Let's go to the book of Daniel, chapter 11. Daniel 11. Man. I like when I get into the book of Daniel, Daniel 11. But I always take a long time in Daniel 11. Man, I'm going to try to make it short though. But, Daniel 11, let's look at verse 20. He said, then shall stand up in this estate a raiser of taxes. And we've had raiser of taxes now. As the President Obama, he brought forth Obamacare, and it was the highest raising of taxes that we ever witnessed. But then again, now we have President Trump, and he's bringing tariffs, which is also among those taxes, right? So, are we seeing among foreshadows, examples? I think so. Pero who knows, right? Because President Trump also is bringing peace with, he wants to bring, there's two pieces that he wants, two parts of the world that he's targeting peace with. One is, of course, North Korea. The other one is the Palestinian state, right? So we'll see how it goes. And we'll see how it goes. You know, if President Trump doesn't get reelected, well, it's gonna be a while till we see another one, you know. But if President Trump gets reelected, well, then he might have a chance with this peace that we read about here in verse 21 and verse 20. He said, "Of the kingdom, but within few days he shall be destroyed, neither in anger nor in battle." And we remember, irmãos, President Obama, his term finished. And that's what the word means, irmãos, in the Hebrew. It means it shall be destroyed, means shall be bursted up. Okay, verse 21. "And in his estate, after the raiser of taxes, shall stand up a vile person." Vile person in the Hebrew, well, vile, it also means vulgar. You know, and President Trump, of course, was, you know, when he was first running for president, he was known as a vile person, as a vulgar person, right? So that right there should have raised your flags of prophecy, your red flags, and go, whoa. But in the Hebrew, the word vile means refused or rejected. And what they do when President Trump became president, a lot of people, millions of people rejected him. Many would say, he's not my president, huh? Wow. Even after the raiser of taxes. "To whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom." They did not. And they still will not. They still rejecting him. They say, he's not my president, even to this day. But look at the colon. The colon here, there's a theory called the gap theory. In the book of Daniel, right after the colon, we talk about the end times. And here it says, "But he shall come in peaceably." Here we're talking about Satan, the Antichrist. "He shall come in peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flatteries." That's the Antichrist after the colon. Okay? Verse 22. "And with the arms of a flood," remember the end time floods, what is it? The flies that will proceed out of the mouth of the serpent. In other words, Satan. "Shall they be overflown from before him?" In other words, Satan will come out with his flood of lies, saying that he's Jesus, bringing so-called peace, and shall be broken. Again, the same word, to burst up by the flood, in other words. "Yeah, also," look, but it says, "Yeah, also, the Prince of the Covenant." Who's this Prince of the Covenant? Well, he's the one that brings about this peace in Jerusalem. He is not the Antichrist, because here in verse 22, it makes in 22 and 23, it gives you the difference between, it separates the one that brings the flood, the Antichrist, from the Prince of the Covenant. The Prince of the Covenant is a king or a prince or a president on this earth that will bring this peace. But as we read in Daniel 9, and we're going to go there, I think, next, that peace will not last. And that's when Satan shows up to heal that peace. And that's how people are going to be fooled, because religion has taught people that the one that brings the peace or signs the first peace treaty in Jerusalem is the Antichrist. No, the one that signs the first peace treaty in Jerusalem, or makes this so-called, is a man, a prince, called the Prince of the Covenant. It lasts for a little bit, but then it receives a fatal wound. And that's when Satan appears as the false Christ, or really saying that he's Jesus. And since people are thinking that the one that signed the peace treaty is the Antichrist, well, when Satan comes, they're going to receive him as Jesus, because that's what religion taught them. Okay? But as you see, it makes a difference. It separates or makes a difference between the Prince of the Covenant and the Antichrist. And with the arms of the flood, that's the Antichrist, they be overthrown from before him, shall be broken. Yeah, also the Prince of the Covenant. And after the league made with him, who's going to make a league with the Prince of the Covenant? Who's going to make a negotiation with the Prince of the Covenant? Satan, the Antichrist. So it tells you there that the Antichrist is not the Prince of the Covenant. The Antichrist comes and heals the peace. He doesn't bring necessarily that peace treaty. It's already signed by kings of the earth. As it is written there in the book of Daniel, chapter 7:25. Hermanos, que dice que, well, ahorita. Daniel 7:17. The great beasts which are four kings who shall arise out of the earth. So it starts with the earth, kings of the earth. Receive the fatal wound, that's when the Antichrist shows up. Okay? And after the league made with him, he shall work deceitfully, the Antichrist. For he shall come in and shall become strong with the small people. Of course, the small people are the Goyim. Hermanos, are the, Goyim, hermanos, me'ar, a little or a few. In other words, the Goy, a nation, hence a Gentile, hermanos, or también a locust, or hermanos, and of course, here we know that it's talking about the Canaanites, the sons of Satan. Okay, because a lot of scholars agree that it's the word Goyim. Okay, all right, verse 24, he shall enter peaceably and obtain the fattest places of the providence, and he shall do what his fathers have not done, nor his fathers' fathers. Shall scatter among them the prey, and spoil in his riches, and he shall forecast his devices against the stronghold, even for a time. And the reason it says that his fathers have not done is a Hebrew idiom, which means that this is unprecedented. It's never happened before, okay? That's what it means. And that doesn't mean that Satan is a man with fathers. No, it means that it's never happened before, okay? It's a Hebrew figure of speech. Okay, let's go, hermanos, to, what I say, we're going to go to Daniel 9, right? I don't know if we have time, but como quiera. Let's go a little bit there in Daniel 9. And of course, we'll finish with Daniel 9 for today. Daniel 9 in verse 25 to 26, 27, he said, Know ye therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto the Messiah, the Prince, shall be 7 weeks. Okay, that's 7 weeks. 7 times 7 is 49 years. Dice, and 62 weeks. So 62 plus 7 is what? 69. But he said there will be 70. Right? So we still lack 1 week. One of the 7, okay? In other words, 1 week, meaning 7 years. Here's where we get the 7-year tribulation. That's how we get it, okay? Right here. He said, and look at the pay close attention to the colon. The street shall be built again, and the wall even in troublesome times. So we know there that a wall will be built during the tribulation. Okay? Because after the colon, talking about end times. Verse 26. And after the 62 weeks, in other words, the 62 weeks, and of course 62 plus 7, the 62 weeks plus the other 49, of course, will equal 483 years, and you will be able to predict, you would have been able to predict when Jesus Christ, what year Jesus Christ would have been crucified, because of this verse. And after the 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, exactly to the same year prophesied here. Messiah shall be cut off, but not for himself. Why? Because he didn't die. He died for us, right? But then again, look at the colon. What did I say the colon meant? That it was going to talk about the end times after the colon. And the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city, the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a what? With a flood, the flood of life. And unto the end of the war, desolations are determined. So there we see the flood of Satan. Look at verse 27. And we still have that colon, right? That colon, we're still in the end times. Verse 27. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. We're talking about the last week. We're talking about the end time week. How long is the end time week? He said 70, right? We only had 69 already fulfilled. So we're left with 1 week of the 70 weeks. There's one. And of course, 1 week equals 7 years. All right? So here's what we get. And he here is the prince of the covenant. The prince of the covenant is not the Antichrist. The prince of the covenant is a man that signs this peace in Jerusalem. Okay? And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. Okay? In other words, the prince of the covenant will make this peace plan. And look at the colon. Now we're going to talk about the next half, or the half of that week. Because Satan will arrive at the middle of that week, as it is written here. And in the midst of the week, in the middle of the 7 years, what is the middle of the 7 years? What's 7 divided by 2? 3 years and a half. So that's when Satan arrives, and he's given how many years to time and times and a half? 3 years and a half. He's given 42 months, but those 42 months shall be cut short, right? And in the middle of the week, that's when Satan arrives, that means Satan, shall cause the sacrifice of the oblation to cease. In other words, you don't have to go to church to sacrifice your praise, your joy, because Jesus will be here. So he takes away the daily sacrifice. Not the killing of an animal, but the daily sacrifice we come and worship here at church. He's going to say, you don't need to go to church anymore because I'm here in Jerusalem. He said, and cause the sacrifice and oblation to cease, and for the overspreading of abomination. For he's the abomination of desolation. He, Satan, shall make it desolate. Remember, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken by Daniel the prophet, he said, flee to the mountains, even unto the consummation of this world age. And that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. So don't get it wrong, okay? There's a man on this earth. The peace is started by kings of the earth. One of those kings of the earth is the prince of the covenant that will finally bring that peace, negotiate a peace in Jerusalem. It's going to last. But when Satan arrives, know this, that 3 years and a half of the first half of the tribulation have already passed. So we're left with 3 years and a half, which are cut short to 5 months. Satan will only rule for 5 months. Okay? He will come and heal the fatal wound that was inflicted upon this so-called peace plan that was created by the kings of the earth, signed by the prince of the covenant. Okay? When Satan comes with his flood of lies, he will make a league, negotiate, form a league with the prince of the covenant. And of course, I always had the theory that the prince of the covenant will be that one that we talked about, Daniel chapter 11, the one that comes after the raising of taxes, the one that will be rejected, the vile person. In other words, maybe not a particular name. And of course, Trump reminds us of the last Trump, right? And of course, Trump is the seventh of the last of the he-goats, which the first peace treaty was signed by a president of the United States, President Carter, 1978. The second, of course, we had Reagan, and of course, third, Bush, and then fourth, Clinton. Where's that? I think I'm getting them right. But first was Carter, and then Reagan, right? And then Bush, the first, and then Clinton, and Bush again, the fifth, six, Obama. Why does six have to be Obama? And of course, seven, the seventh Trump. The seventh Trump, right? So, of course, the last, when we read about the last Trump, it should wake up our eye. Whoa. So, if President Trump does initiate or finalize a peace treaty, which is very hard to do, well then, I believe, what I'm trying to say that a president, not necessarily President Trump, but it has to be a he-goat. In other words, the president of the end-time superpower. In other words, it has to be signed by the most powerful man in the planet. And who's the most powerful man in the planet instead of Jesus, right? The President of the United States. So I've always had that theory that the President of the United States is a role, not particularly a man, not particular person, but a role. And then this time we have Trump fulfilling that role as President of the United States, as the most powerful leader in the planet. And of course, it has to be the most powerful leader in the planet to sign this to sign this peace treaty, to be called the Prince of the Covenant. And it looks like he's pretty dedicated to be that person. He looks like he's pretty dedicated. Right now, he's being refused big time by the Palestinians. But imagine if he brings peace with North Korea, negotiates a peace with North Korea, one that will be legitimate, not like the last one, right? Like the Iran deal, not like that one, but one that will have legitimacy. Will have accountability. It will be a great miracle. But remember that according to Daniel 8, the last he-goat, in other words, the last superpower of the nation, shall take 4 kingdoms. And we already saw Iraq. Remember the 4 axes of evil that President Bush mentioned in 2003? What were they? Iraq, Iran. Iran is in the target. He's in the target still. He's still in the scope to go down either by peace or by war. But Iran is one that they want to replace. Iraq, Iran, and who was else? North Korea, and I was one of them. And I forget the other one, hermano, Señor. I forgot the other one. It was 3 axis of evil, no? Iran, North Korea, and which one? Iraq. Iraq already went down. Syria is, it's on the list too, but really, Libya went down under Obama. Even though not directly, but indirectly, because the United States was supplying what the so-called rebels needed to take down Gaddafi. So we're seeing a bunch of stuff coming. Matter of fact, yesterday when I saw President Trump cross to touch his feet in North Korea, I started crying. I was so overwhelmed to see that, because it was the first president to ever do that, and it was just like, whoa, something that significant, it could initiate something great to happen. Something like that changes people's hearts. To see the dictator Kim Jong-un celebrate, President Trump crossing and touching for the first time President of the United States, North Korea. It was very symbolic. Either they go down by war or by peace. But the Bible says that the end-time superpower of all superpowers, there's only one, will replace 4 kingdoms in the end times before the Antichrist shows up. So man, a lot of things happening now. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this study. I know I talked a lot, but we've been seeing a lot come to pass. Any questions, any comments?